we're going to try and finish this session around 7:30. So it's more or less 20-25 minutes. And then I'll give you the rest of the hour, the last 20-25 minutes for you to finish reading, doing your own, making your own conclusions, mind maps, etc. Great. And after class, I'm going to send you a message explaining what your homework is. Because if I do it now, it might be a little confusing, and it might take up time that we need for the explanations that we are about to talk about now. Okay. So after class, I'll be sending you a couple of messages with details on your homework, and for the presentation, especially on Monday next week. Great. So now, Abby, if you could help us, please, and can you share the document and go to page 155, please? Here we have combining scores and reporting the results. So since you were reading this, I would like you to tell me what you make of all this. What is your understanding of these two paragraphs about combining scores and reporting the results? Please, anybody.
Yeah, well, what I understood here was that you can create assumptions based on your individual students' results. So yeah, in this manner, you can, for example, use their speaking test, their listening test, and the writing test, or to say, maybe this student is not doing so well in this part, so I will need to speak with his parents, so to be sure that everything is going well at home. So it's to sum up, your students' grades might reflect their performance and also their problems in the language.
Great. Yes. And so, yeah, just to complement, what you just said, it's important that we show the results. We're going to call them results here, to the stakeholders. We should be able to inform the stakeholders of their kids scores. And so so what we want to do is that if we have different, for example, assessments that the students have done, we want to put them all. We can use the results of some parciales that we, if you like, and so take all this in a way that this is representative of what the students really know. And so when we are in front of the parents, we can inform of what the real level of achievement is. Because let's not forget that it's not only the kids, it's their parents that want to know. Okay, so we sometimes want to know the total score, because you know that in our system, parents and also other institutions usually want to know the grade, the final grade. They want to know a number or a grade or a mark. And so you need this to report the performance of the entire test, right? And you should be able to explain to parents how you arrived at this score. Yeah. So what we do sometimes, or many times, is we combine, the scores from several different tests, given, for example, all along the semester, all along the bimester, to arrive at the total score, or grade, or mark, as they call it in school. Because also we need scores. We need, for example, this type of final scores to make summative decisions about our students. When we have, for example, this, ¿cómo le llama? Exámenes, no? I mean, when they have this at the end of the first semester, or at the end, you want to know if the students are going to be promoted or not. So what you do is you take different assessments, different tests, and combine them and try and get one total grade, or mark. Yes. Good. And so in this case, if we can turn the page, go to page 156. Great. We have this, let me see where we are, over here on the left. Yeah, great.
I don't have a 156.
You don't have 156?
This
Oh my God.
He's the next.
Maybe.
Abby. He's the next.
Yes. Yes. Okay, thank you.
It's here?
Yes.
I have purposes, yeah, because I saw this intended audiences. Yeah, it's right up here, purposes and all that. Yeah, over here. Yeah, and so I want to draw your attention to what we have here, these 3 bullet points here. These are 3 considerations in deciding how to arrive at the score that is going to be reported. So you have to make these 3 considerations. Number 1 is the purposes for which the score will be used. For example, if you're going to have a junta de padres, for example, then of course you have to elaborate a document that is very clear. Maybe you need to project, make it a presentation that you're going to show to parents, showing the different levels of ability, language ability that you have tested, and then the criteria that you used, and then explain how they are doing. And so in this case, it's a must that you arrive at grades that are consistent with the real level of achievement of each student. And the second one is the intended audience, or the stakeholders to whom the score will be presented or will be reported. And number 3, the kind of score that would be most meaningful and useful for the intended purposes and audience. So, for example, if you're doing a presentation in front of the parents, you don't want to show them short tests that you did in class that are not really representative, or they're not indicative of what the students can or can't do with the language. You want to show them things that are more meaningful. For example, speaking. Parents want to know, if their kids can really speak English, if they are able to hold a conversation in the shopping mall or something like that. And so you can present the results of this type of tasks. Great. Now, continuing with this, we have the total score for a single test. Total score for a single test. Yeah, and Abby, I would like you to read this section and the section that says purposes, please.
Sorry, Prof, I couldn't hear you. Well, what did you say?
Yeah. Could you read this section, a total score for a single test, and then purposes?
Okay, Prof.
Thank you.
Total score for a single test. To arrive at a total score for a single test, you will combine the scores for the individual items. Uh, Purposes. Many of the classroom-based tests you give your students will cover a fairly limited amount of instructional content, such as a short quiz over a single lesson. The primary uses of these tests are typically to make low stakes formative decisions. The
Mistakes.
first bullet point says, provide feedback to your students on their overall performance on the test. Help you make changes to your instruction if needed. Report your students' overall achievement to stakeholders.
Okay, thank you very much. So again, no, again, the purposes of being able to score, no, the tests, no, or the assessments, no, is that what you see here, no, that you can provide feedback to your students in those areas where their performance is weak. No? And if necessary, maybe change something in how you deliver instruction in class. No? And also the reports that you present should be understandable to all stakeholders. No? So that is also, well, I think it's kind of the same thing, no? But here we're talking about a less general kind of test, no? A single test in this case. No? You know that if we continue here, no? The intended audiences, you know, the stakeholders, are parents, the guardians, etc. Then we have kind of score, if we can go, yeah, kind of score to be reported. Many different kinds of total scores can be reported for a single test, for single tests. And the kind of total score you report depends mainly on who will receive it. The score that will be reported for a single test can be arrived at in several different ways. No? And then and then we have this, no? For example, if you have all selected and limited production responses, well, I think the procedure here is easy, no? Because usually how we work in schools to make it very practical is that each correct answer is usually 1 point, no? And we usually divided exams, for example, in 20 points, because 20 is usually the grade that we use in schools. Or if the grade is 10, we divide it by 2, no? And we get that. And so, for example, if you have this kind of selected responses, it's just multiple choice, it's easy, no? Because each correct answer is 1 point. And then if you want to know the total, you add up all items, no? For example, 10 questions, 10 points. If the number of correct answers is 8, then the student has 8 points. Tiene 8 sobre 10, no? So it's easy. Yeah. Well, usually, for example, what happens here, and in my experience, and I think it also in yours, and maybe to be more practical, sometimes the best way to present the result, the results, the scores, is with percentage. No, percentage is something that people usually understand. No, most people understand. You see, for example, if you talk about the class, we see that 70% of the class can do this and this. No, people understand more that than if you say, for example, some students got 7 points over 10 and blah blah blah. And so, yeah. But if you use percentage, people are more familiar with that. Yeah, and that's what we see, for example, here in the next paragraph. No, when we talk about the role score, no? What is the meaning of raw in Spanish?
Can you repeat that, Prof? Sorry.
What is the meaning of raw? Because in this last paragraph, it says you and your students, no, the raw score. What is the raw score? What is raw?
Could it be like the
Like the
no,
definition score.
the first
Like
scores
what?
without any
Without any reference.
without any
Yeah, without
reference, yeah.
any reference. Exactly, without any reference. Yeah. For example, if we tell a parent, no, your student got 7 out of 12, the parent maybe doesn't understand exactly if that is a good grade. Y 7 suena como que es muy bajo, no? If you tell a parent your son got 7, the father would say, "Whoa, it's terrible, no?" Because, but 7 in this case is only the raw number. No? It is the number of correct answers in a quiz that had, for example, 12 questions. No? But usually when we present scores, we don't use raw numbers. No, we use percentage. O le hacemos conversión sobre, I don't know, 10, 20, or in other countries, for example, we use A plus, no, B minus, etc. No? Right. And so what we have here in this case, in this paragraph, in the last paragraph on this page, it says the number of tasks correctly answered will be meaningful because both you and your students know how many tasks there were in the test. So the raw score is useful for you and for the students, but maybe it's not useful for the parents. No? Okay, and so if we go to the next page, and we go up here, and let me see. Avi, I don't know if it's me with myself here, but can we total score for extended responses? No? I want you to show page 157. Total score, 100, no, that's for extended. Yeah, this one for extended something, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so the author goes on in this section to explain that what you can do is to convert this raw score into something that parents, guardians can understand. Y ahí enseña, for example, la regla de 3, ¿no? For example, if you were working over a rate of 20 points, por ejemplo, este 7 sobre 12 in 20 points, how many points does that represent? 7 over 12. What do you do to get the grade over 20?
What did you say, Prof? I didn't understand.
Yeah, that if the score on a test is 7 out of 12, what is the grade in the scale of 20 points?
You mean 7 out of 10? But
No, 7 out of 12.
12. Okay. Yeah.
7 out of 12.
Like 10 and some tenths.
But
10
how
over
much
20.
is it? Si alguien tiene 7 sobre 12, what is their grade in the scale of 20 points?
Let me check my calculator.
So what do you have to do to calculate this?
11.666.
Yeah, almost 12, no? Almost 12 over 20. So what you do is you take 7, no? And divide it by 12, right? And then times 20, no? Esa división multiplico por 20, no? And so, and then you have 140, right? Divided by 12, no? It's casi 12, no? Yeah, so the grade is 12 over 20. Yeah. And so what the author is trying to explain here is that many times we have to convert grades, no? And he gives the example here of the percentage, no? For example, 14 out of 20 is 70%. The percentage correct can be calculated, well, we know that, no? It's simple mathematics, no? Yeah, right. Okay. So that is when you have a multiple choice. Now, when you have extended production responses, it's very similar. Now you have, for example, 3 different ways to represent and to present this, no? As a profile of analytic ratings or scores, no? As a total score. Sometimes you want to present the score, and then as a grade or mark, no? Usually in our system we use grade, we use marks, no? Because we give the damos la nota in with numbers, no? And that is marks. Great. And so what you have here, for example, is, and maybe we need to read this, no? For production responses. Yeah, I'd like to have someone read this section, the first paragraph, please. A profile of the example of the analytic.
Me, prof.
Thank you very much. Please.
A profile of the analytic ratings you give will be meaningful for you and your students. For example, if you gave ratings of 3, 4, 2 for grammar, vocabulary, and cohesion, respectively, you and your students know the rating scales that were used, the areas of ability, the number of scale levels, and the descriptors of those different levels. However, in order for these ratings to be meaningful to other stakeholders, you will need to include the actual rating scales used along with the profile of ratings. You may also want to report a total or composite score based on the analytic ratings. May I continue, Prof?
No, that's okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, because composite is another thing, no? Yeah. So yeah, I think the explanation is clear, no? That when you, for example, when you want to show the scores to your students, it's a good idea that you show them, for example, with the score. No, I mean with the rating rubric alongside, no? O sea, junto con eso que vaya la. Because in that way, students can see why they got such and such partial grades, no? So they understand, no? And they need to understand where they are strong and where they are weak. So it's perfect, yeah. But when you're going to present the reports to their parents, then it's different because they don't understand. They may not understand, and they may not very interested in knowing every detail. What they want to know is if they have a good grade, a good mark, or if they don't. And so you convert them to 20s or 10s or ABCD, no, as they use in other schools. Yeah, and then what the author is doing here is talking about composite scores, no? So what is a composite? No, a composite is, as you can see here, is the total score, no? Total score that teachers arrive at by taking into account many or all different analytic ratings. So In other words, it means that when you are finishing the bimester, for example, and you need to present the parciales, no, you need to take all all assessments that you've done in the bimester, no, all of them from different parts of the test, all the scores from different, or all tests from different that you administer at different times, or you take all the results of all the tests and you make one, no? You make it into only one where you can have a real reference, no, because of the number or because of the mark or the grade. You know if the students are doing okay or not. So composite is como tomar varios para hacer uno, no? Because you need one final score, no? One final score. So how can you do that, no? As you can see here, it says there are two ways to arrive at a composite score for analytic ratings. It's compensatory, and the other one is non-compensatory. The approach you use will depend on the purpose for which the score will be used. So what it means here, and you when we finish the session, you're going to have to read those two, no, here. But what the author means here, what he says here is that if you're going to use a compensatory composite, what you do is you take all the grades, right, and you add them up. And if the minimum is, for example, 14, okay, and the student gets 14, the student passes, regardless, no, of what each section, what the student scored in each section. No? Maybe the student is very weak in speaking, no? But because he is hardworking, he knows all the grammar, all the vocabulary, he can read, no? And so he gets good grades, okay? And even though his speaking is terrible, but in the end, the student will pass, no? And that's what happens in schools, no? In schools, for example, we cannot fail a student because the student did very poorly in a speaking present and in a speaking activity, no? We can't do that because we have to take all grades and all these grades, no, where the student is excellent, compensate for the area where he's very low, for speaking. Okay, but the other one, the non-compensatory, is the opposite. No? When you're working in, for example, in institutos, for example, in Católica, no, in Catholic University, in Central University, students have an exam, no, they have an oral exam. If they fail the oral exam, okay, they fail, no, regardless of the score they get in the written test, no. So students be excellent in writing, reading, grammar, etc. But if they are very poor, no, if they are low achievers in speaking, then they fail, no, because the good results in writing don't compensate the low score in speaking, and so the student needs to fail because he's not able to perform well in speaking, no. And in some way it makes sense, no, because in a real world, for example, in the world of work, if you can't speak, no, for example, you cannot work, no. I mean, maybe a lot of jobs require that you have a good command of the language because you need to make phone calls, because you need to have interviews. And so if the student can't talk, the student won't pass. So we have these two different composites, no? Compensatory and non-compensatory. Okay, and I guess that's all for tonight, no? Tonight. Yeah, I'm gonna ask you, I thought that we would have time. I was gonna leave the last 10 minutes to the quiz, but I think I'm gonna leave that for you as part of your homework, no? In the last part of the document of you have a quiz, no? So do the quiz. I think on Monday before the presentations, I can show you the answers, right? So you know if you did well or not so well, and then we go on with the presentations. Okay, and of course reading scoring methods. It's only 3 more pages, no? Okay. I think it's very interesting, and I hope you find it. Well, I'm sure you're gonna find it interesting, but I hope you can even do a little more digging, no? And look up some articles or some other examples online. Okay, so thank you very much. That's all for tonight. Like I said, in a few minutes, I'll be sending you instructions for this group work, which is a little presentation using the last topics that we've seen in class. And you're going to be working in groups, but I will be explaining that in a few minutes, okay? And I'll send you a message to the WhatsApp. And if you have any questions after that, you can, of course, text me, and I can put more instructions in the chat. Okay, so thank you very much. I think we have only 1 or 2 minutes before the session finishes. So thanks for this session, and have a nice weekend.
Thanks, Prof.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Prof.
Thanks, bro.
Thank you, Prof.
Next class.
Thanks, Prof.
Take it easy and take it easy. Enjoy. I'll see you on Monday. Thank you,